Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, what condition my condition was in.
Alon, when's the last time you backed out of something at the very last minute?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Yeah, it's pretty appropriate for tonight.
Yeah, it is. I'd really have to think. I mean, I back out occasionally out of like group outings, like, hey, we're all gonna go get dinner or go to the bars. I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to stay home. But that's not a big deal. Like, you can always back out of those things. I can't remember the last time I backed out of something big though.
I mean, as I get older, I back out of plans at the last second, and that's lame to do as well. You have to give proper notice. Like, if you're going out and hanging out with somebody and you text them 5 minutes beforehand and that person is already at the location, that's lame. Yeah. But as I've gotten older, and I'm sure this is going to happen with Steven, it already has multiple times, where he's got things going on in his life, obviously, but if you plan to meet up and you give like an hour or an hour or two, that's cool with me. That's fine. But like, if you do it where the person is massively inconvenienced, that's lame.
Yeah, you're going to hate me for this, but I have a huge headache. One of those texts.
Exactly.
No.
Well, I've heard that for many reasons, and that includes in the bedroom sometimes.
I was going to say, actually, about a month ago, I was supposed to do some work for UNLV softball, and I actually had to back out, but it was 2 days before, and it's because I had a different commitment with the one of the academic departments that I misscheduled. But yeah, so.
Well, Alon, I was hoping for us to talk about some of the Raider moves that were made yesterday because you weren't on with me when we did day one of the fuckery. A lot of moves made by the Raiders, some really good moves, with the knowledge that Maxx Crosby was not going to be on the team anymore because they did agree to a trade with the Baltimore Ravens last Friday. But anything we were planning on talking tonight gets trumped for the news that happened about 2 hours ago. And this is, I know people are going to say this is typical Raiders, but a lot of blame needs to be placed on the Baltimore Ravens. Just 2 hours ago, the Raiders released a statement, and I'll get you the actual wording here. But we've seen failed physicals before. It's happened in baseball. It's happened in football, too, with the Raiders. Roger Saffold signing one weekend, and then the next day, Mark Davis was not thrilled with the medicals, and he went on to have a good career with the LA Rams. But just about 2 hours ago, the Raiders released this brief statement. The Baltimore Ravens have backed out of our trade agreement for Maxx Crosby. We will have no further comment at this time. And initially, my thought is they failed him on the physical. And we knew that Maxx Crosby had something going on with his knee, the meniscus tear. But I never thought it was something to the point where he wouldn't pass a physical. When you agree to a trade like this for Maxx Crosby for 2 first-round picks, you better be damn sure that he's going to be healthy enough to pass that physical. And maybe he's not going to pass the physical. Maybe it's where it's not good right now, but you still feel confident that he's going to play come week 1 of the NFL season. So reports are out there. Diana Rossini is saying that the Baltimore Ravens failed him on the physical. There's a lot of people reporting, having conversations with GM saying this is a bad look. This is a bad look by the Baltimore Ravens. And yes, you could say that they're being overcautious and they never made a move like this before, but I think it's where they got cold feet at the last second and they're seeing a guy that they traded for that they knew had a knee that they knew had a knee problem and knew he had knee surgery, but they're just like, you know what? Is it really worth trading 2 first-round picks? Or we were the only team willing to do that. Trey Hendrickson's still available. Why don't we pivot and go sign him? And if that happens tomorrow, this is going to be shady as fuck. So I have a ton of thoughts on this, and people are already coming down my road on KNBR saying I'm a Raider lover. But you know what? Fuck that. It's nothing to do with that. This is bad business by the Baltimore Ravens, so however you want to slice it. So, Alon, your thoughts on this, as I am heated because, again, like this is good news for the Raiders, but honestly, it's also bad news because they signed a ton of free agents yesterday. And I think they still can make those deals go through, but they were planning on retooling and getting, 2 first-round picks and this totally screws them.
They have about $50 million-ish left in cap room, so they could actually incur Maxx Crosby's contract. But before we even go there, they made all those moves yesterday. It looked like, hey, wow, they're really trying to build something or retool, whatever the word you want to call it is, but build something up, right? Then this happens. And when I saw the news, I went, okay, so what was it that fell through? And so it's reported that it's a failed physical. All right. Well, NFL physicals are not like going to the doctor for me and you or anybody else. It's and I'm seeing everybody in the chat starting to blow up here too, which is really good. But everything when you go to get these physicals as a player, the team can fail you for any reason. All that being said, I'm pretty sure that Maxx Crosby is not 100% healthy yet. I don't care if he had Instagram videos showing him dunking on his basketball court and all that kind of stuff after he had been shut down by the Raiders. There's a legitimate reason that the Raiders shut him down for the last 2 games of the season. So that makes sense now. He needs meniscus surgery. He got it. He's had a couple of surgeries now over the past 2 years. But in terms of what the Ravens have done, technically the rules say, hey, it's not until March 11th at 6 p.m. Pacific time or 9 p.m. Eastern.
Hang on,
whatever it is.
It might be me. Your connection's kind of getting spotty a little bit, and we're losing you a little bit. Then it speeds up a little bit, so you may need to reconnect if you can.
I will.
But yeah, I don't know if that's me or chat will tell me if that's on my end, guys, if it's my internet or if it's Alon at this point. But let me know if you could reconnect real quick, Alon, because it's kind of getting a little spotty. Yeah. Yeah. So look, I hope people are going to say, well, this is typical Raiders. This happens all the time. And I'd say, yes, this is a bad look on the Raiders' part too, but really it is on Baltimore because they could have been a little more. They could have been careful before they pulled off. Oh, sorry, was that on my end? My bad. Is that true, Ernie? Let me know. Let me know if that was just more me with my connection. But sorry, I'm just getting my words together. A shock today with Maxx Crosby. So it should have been where the Baltimore Ravens done their due diligence before. Can you guys get me? You guys got me? Yeah, it's my internet connection. Shit. Well, I'll get Alon back on here. And maybe I need to a little bit, but yep, things are fucking up. Let me get Alon back on. Hang on one second. Yeah, it's me. I'm frozen. I'm cutting in and out. Sorry, guys. Of course this would happen. Hang on. Let me text Alon. He'll get back on here. So, yeah, let me know when I may need to reconnect myself. But, yeah, I think the Baltimore Ravens should have done their due diligence on this before they agreed to a trade where it consists of 2 first-round picks. And I know that Eric DaCosta wants to be smart about this and not give up this massive draft capital. And if there is something with the physical that does not look good, then I get that they want to pull out of it. But, and Alon's back here. Sorry about that, Alon. I think that was actually my connection. I apologize. I'm rambling here because this is throwing me through a loop. So I'll let you finish your thoughts on Maxx Crosby before I cut in, and let me know if my internet connection's crapping out itself.
Gotcha. I was just going to say that you can cancel an NFL trade based on a physical for any reason, right? The trade doesn't go through until March 11th. Those are the league rules. We all know that. But when you commit that kind of capital to acquire a player like Maxx Crosby, and you're a team that's going all in, trying to get over the hump, like we talked about a couple episodes ago, the Ravens think that they're right there. I mean, this is not something you do. The reputational cost for the Ravens has to be through the roof now. What kind of team is going to want to do business with them, right? They're going to need to have like lawyers in the room. It can't be over the phone. Everybody's got to be in one place at like NFL headquarters. Roger Goodell's going to have to be sitting down there and saying, okay, is the trade done? And it's not just a handshake. There's going to have to be signatures and all that kind of stuff. The Ravens have proven with whatever the hell just happened today that they are not trustworthy. At least they weren't trustworthy today. So that is very bad for them going forward. For the Raiders, they are not going to get that same offer from anyone else. And I think you're right, Derek. I think the Ravens, after all this reporting came out, right, over the past, 24 to 72 hours of what other teams were potentially offering, what other teams kind of thought they could get Maxx Crosby for, when the Ravens probably realized, oh, crap, we may be overspent compared to what everybody else wanted to. Is there a way out of this? Yeah, hell yeah, there is. We can fail him on the physical. Now, he may have failed the physical outright anyway, but there are stories in the past of players failing physicals and still getting traded to the team. The most famous one being in 1991, it would be Brett Favre. Brett Favre failed his physical with the Packers, and the team doctor said to Ron Wolf, hey, you should probably nix this trade. And Ron Wolf said, to hell with that. We want Brett Favre. We're keeping him.
Yeah.
And they did. But I don't know. This is so ridiculous. And of course it would happen with the Raiders involved too. The Raiders have had trades nixed by Pete Rozelle, 50 years ago, 40 years ago now. Now they have another, just wonky, crazy Raider thing that happens in their lore. But just in general for the league, I'm not saying that there needs to be a new regulation or bylaws or any of this kind of stuff. But what I am saying is, hey, just because something is assumed to have gone through, hey, the ink will be dry on Wednesday. Once again, it proves that it's not really done until it's done.
And that makes me think twice about this whole, legal tampering period or trades done before the new league year, because we all get excited. And this is maybe me being disappointed that this trade is not happening anymore. But the fact that all these trades are agreed upon, but nothing can be official until tomorrow. The DJ Moore trade was spicy. The Trent McDuffie trade was spicy as well. But nothing is finalized until someone passes a physical. And we've seen this in sports before. Bay Area fans know with Carlos Correa, there was a press conference ready to go one day, and then it was postponed. And later we found out that the Giants weren't comfortable in what they saw with the medicals. So this is different, though. And let me know if my connection's good or not. I apologize for earlier. But I think that this is 100% on the Baltimore Ravens, where I don't know if they saw the other reports and like, damn, we overspent for Maxx Crosby. They never done a trade of this magnitude before. They've never traded multiple first-round picks or a first-round pick for a player. Now, they needed to do this, and they're getting a potential Hall of Fame player in Maxx Crosby here, but also Baltimore has a history of doing this. I'll give you some examples in a little bit here, but they failed people on physicals when it came to free agency or trades in the past. And there was one in 1997 and the early 2000s. They also agreed to a trade with Terrell Owens initially before he went to Philadelphia, and then they nixed that. It was more so because T.O. was not happy with going to Baltimore. But this totally screws the Raiders because they're not going to get 2 first-round picks now. They were the only team willing to do that. And now teams are going to be spooked by his medical where, do we trade for him right now? And Aram in the chat here says he still thinks that Maxx Crosby is going to end up with the Raiders here because they're not going to get what they want. Let's see what kind of team they're going to have now, and they could trade him at the deadline. I don't know if you could do that to Maxx now. Like, this sucks. And I know that Ian Rappaport, I think Super Bowl weekend, reported that he had the medical issue, he had the knee, and maybe teams are going to be hesitant to trade for him. But that was well known to everybody. So this is just not out of thin air. And I highly doubt that John Spytek, as a new general manager in this league, will pull a fast one over Eric DaCosta. So I've been looking around. I've seen the reports. Jason Lockett-Fora, Jason Palmer, or James Palmer. I talked to John Middlecoff. Everyone's in agreement here that this looks shady on the Ravens front.
Yeah.
Where they don't usually make trades like this, and they can still go out and get a Trey Hendrickson tomorrow, and that will look very bad, where you don't have to give up 2 first-round picks. You just pay him, but that's where you don't have to give up that draft capital. So I don't know what the Raiders do now. I have no idea what's going to happen with Maxx Crosby, and as you can tell, I'm just thrown through a loop here because this is insane. This is bad business by the Baltimore Ravens. I don't think there's any way about it. I think that when you look at failed physicals, Kristaps Porzingis somehow, some way was passed to go to the Golden State Warriors when he's got POTS, some weird thing with his heart rate that increases with an illness, but they signed off on that one. Same thing happened a couple years ago with the Golden State Warriors where they traded back for GP2. He was with the Portland Trail Blazers, and the Trailblazers withheld some medical information, and the Warriors were not happy about that, but they went with the trade anyway because they trust GP2. The Baltimore Ravens, if this was some kind of just unbelievable thing with his medical, where they looked at it and they were like, we don't know if this guy's going to play this season, then I don't know why you don't go through with this. It's Maxx Crosby. I get it. It's a gigantic risk, and your owner just fired the head coach of 18 years. So who's to say if you fuck up on this, you're not fired as well? But I got to believe that the Ravens just didn't like the fact they were giving up 2 first-round picks for a player that was coming off knee surgery.
That seems like the most obvious, and I generally like to go with the most obvious explanations for things, especially with sports. I mean, it's so hard to have some type of grand conspiracy of kind of what happened or some, there could be some crazy structural damage, right, with Max's knee. And if that's the case, then the Ravens would probably come out and say, we tried so many different ways to pass him on his physical. We just couldn't. But that's not what we're hearing. We just, from the Ravens, we just hear failed physical. And from the Raiders, it's Ravens they backed out. We don't have any further comments. All right. All that aside, I want to just go back to this. The audience and reputational costs for the Ravens are massive here. Who is going to want to do business with them in the future? Number one. Number two, it's not just the Ravens, any team could have done this, and everyone's going to go, well, that's shady as hell. We're not dealing with them. We'll go trade with anybody else. Now, you said the Ravens do kind of have a history of this. I was actually looking this up before the show. In 2020, they voided a contract with Michael Brockers because of a failed physical.
Yep.
2018, Ryan Grant, failed physical. I mean, so they've done this before. In the 1990s, like you said, they backed out of a trade or a deal with Brock
Marion.
Brock Marion, yeah. So
yep.
Those are the things that the Ravens have done. All that being said, like, this is not the stellar start you want to a new era for a head coach for the Ravens now in Minter. Mm-hmm. And if you're Clint Kubiak, you're going, what the hell just happened here? I thought I was going to get not just Mendoza, but maybe I'd be able to go get a guard. Maybe I'd be able to go get a Mekhi Lemon kind of receiver if I need. Well, not now because they just signed Naylor probably. But anyway, Clint Kubiak's got to be thrown for a whirl as well. Now, I was actually texting with someone, my buddy who works over at CBS here. He does one of the sports shows on the local CBS. And I said, look, if I was Mark Davis right now, I'm looking at Maxx Crosby. I'm looking at Tom Brady. I'm looking at John Spytek. I'm looking at Clint Kubiak. I'm trying to get as many of them in the room as I possibly can at one time. Tom Brady might not be available because he's a busy man. But I'm looking at everybody. I'm saying, all right, Max, I know there was some frustration here. We tried to trade you, whether you wanted that or not. Doesn't matter. John, to Spytek, hey, you tried to get a deal done. It was a good deal. Maybe it pissed Max off here and there. Maybe there's a number of things that pissed him off. Doesn't matter. Everybody's got to just move forward, drop the shit, get ready. Max, you're under contract. If we trade you, we trade you. But as of now, you're part of the team. We're moving forward. We have the cap space to have you. And whether the relationship takes a long time to heal or not, that doesn't even matter. Mark Davis has to come in here with the hammer and tell everybody to settle the F down because this thing basically blew up. And if he wants to show his true ownership chops, which I think he does have because he dedicates a lot of capital to this team. He's paying like 9 head coaches, right?
Yeah.
So he's got to come in and be that stabilizing force. You know, he kind of had to do it when Henry Ruggs and John Gruden situations happened, but this is completely outside of personal kind of off the field issues or crimes happening. This is an organizational thing where he has to come in and just say, look, I'm the leader. I'm the top dog here. And I need everybody to be on the same page now. That's the only way that you move forward with this because you're not going to get 2 first rounders from anybody else for Maxx Crosby. Just the news being out that he potentially failed a physical or he did fail a physical is going to tank his trade value. You have to take him on. And you know what? You might need to sit down with Max and go, hey, look, we just got 2 Georgia linebackers who've been pretty damn good in the NFL. We got one of the best young centers in the NFL on the team now, if all these deals go through. Got a damn good slot corner now. Re-signed another good corner. There's a team here, Max, and if Clint Kubiak can win him over within the first, 4 weeks of the season, then maybe you have something going forward. I agree. I think it was Ernie or someone in the chat said, hey, keep him and then trade him at the deadline.
Yeah.
That's probably what's going to end up happening now. I think he's stuck for better or for worse. And this could be a blessing in disguise for the Raiders. If they are somehow competitive coming into this next year with a new head coach, a new quarterback, all these new pieces, if they are somehow competitive, then everything kind of magically works out for them. If they are not competitive and it's a multi-year rebuild, it's not like the Patriots turnaround, then yeah, this is going to be hell because everybody's going to know that Maxx Crosby wants out and they will not have to offer what the Ravens just nixed during this past trade.
I agree with everything you just said. I think it'd be healthy for everybody to get in the same room and talk this out. And I know Tom Brady may be a busy man, but if he's going to be minority owner of this team, he needs to show up for this.
He's got to be in the damn building. I agree with you. If you're going to really be a part of this and have football operational influence in this building here in Henderson, I'm in Las Vegas, but Henderson's just that way. You got to be in the freaking building.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think Alex Guerrero needs to be in that meeting as well because it sounds like Maxx Crosby has a problem with him. I don't know if they could put the genie back in the bottle with Maxx. And God, it's just so awkward because he did that video for 12 minutes, pouring his heart out to Raider Nation. Like everybody thought this was going to happen. And I know that may be too presumptuous, but at the same time, like, what are we doing here? I know that the deal has to be completed officially by Wednesday, but this doesn't get this far along without some confidence that he's going to be healthy. And you knew that. Eric DaCosta knew that. Steve Bisciotti knew that. And you mentioned, Alon, there's a history of this where they fail physicals. They're just not comfortable with deals. And that's fine if you're signing a free agent because no harm, no foul. But when you have a trade partner, you totally fuck them. Like, again, everybody's reporting that all these deals still could go through. But, goddamn, it's just tough where Maxx Crosby has to come back now, and it's a bad look for him. We're saying goodbye to the Raiders, but now he's going to be there. You're probably right. They probably should hang on to him now and just wait till the trade deadline because you're not going to get what you hope for. And Maxx Crosby, I don't give a damn if he has a knee injury or not right now. He's worth 2 first-round picks. I'm going to stand on that because you don't give up pass rushers like that for a second and a first. That's just the going rate. And I hate that the Raiders have to succumb to what's going on right now. They got a good deal with the Baltimore Ravens, and now they're backing out of it. And now some other team's going to swoop in at the last second here because they're weak. And they're so desperate to do this trade that they're going to give them up for 2 seconds or a second and a third, and that sucks. You shouldn't be able to do that. So this is a bad situation for John Spytek, and people could say, well, this is typical Raiders bullshit. This was not their problem. This was Baltimore's problem. And as Ian Rappaport said on TV, there isn't such thing as failing a physical. It's what a team is comfortable with when you inherit a player with an injury. It happens all the time. Kevin Durant was traded to the Phoenix Suns a couple of years ago, and he was not healthy. There was deals on the table for Giannis Antetokounmpo when he's dealing with a calf strain right now. You don't think teams are going to pass him on a physical? Get the fuck out of here. So I think that, and you tell I'm passionate about this because I think it's more like not me as a former Raider fan by any means. This is me just not liking a team backing out of a trade. I'm being serious here. People can laugh at me and say, like, you're full of shit right now, Derek. No, I was excited to see Maxx Crosby play for the Baltimore Ravens. I'm being completely honest here. I wanted him to go to a different team and have success with a team that has potential of winning a Super Bowl. This isn't about me. Like, if I was still a Raider fan, I would be happy he's back on the team, and there's more potential of him being on this roster right now. I'm pissed off that Eric DaCosta decided that at the last second here, you know what, this is not worth 2 first-round picks. Tough shit. I'm sorry, but you agreed to this last Friday. You could change your mind. No one's going to fault. I mean, like, yes, we can all fault you for that, but no one's going to reprimand you or find you from the NFL offices. But it's a bad look. It really is a bad look. However you want to look at this, Eric DaCosta looks not great for going through with this trade, or not going through with this trade, I should say. So I know I'm all over the place here. This is just shocking that they would pull out of this deal like this.
Well, yeah, no, DaCosta loses credibility. The organization loses credibility. I'm looking a few of the comments here. Aram, he was the one who pointed out what I thought Ernie said, but Aram also said, they effed over other teams too. Of course they did. They just reshifted the entire trade market.
Yeah.
Everything that we thought the landscape was, it has totally been shifted. And Trey Hendrickson now, like you mentioned earlier, he comes into more of he was already relevant, but now he's very relevant for a lot of teams going, well, maybe just pay Trey Hendrickson, even though he has a core muscle issue, right? And he hasn't exactly been healthy. I do want to say this. I saw a comment here from Skills Report. It said Crosby won't play for the Raiders in 26. The only way he stays a Raider is if he's truly damaged and no one accepts a trade or can pass his physical. I see what you're saying, Skills, and I understand the logic there. But from a team standpoint, if someone comes to you with like a first and a third or a second and, whatever, right? Or a second, a third, and a player, you're not going to take that if you're the Raiders. You're just not. You have the guy under 4 more years of contract control. You're just not going to take it. Maybe you take a first, but that means things are truly beyond repair. And I don't think they're there yet, because if they were truly beyond repair, Maxx would have already moved away from Las Vegas. He wouldn't even associate with anybody in the Raiders organization, which he still does. So I don't think things are there yet. All that being said, let's just say it gets to the trade deadline, right? And before I go to the other point, but let's just say it gets to the trade deadline. What do you take now if you're the Raiders? What do you take? Do you take a first-round pick? Do you do something like that? I throw that out to the chat. I throw that out to you, Derek. Like, what? Because you're not going to get the two first-rounders.
No, you're not anymore. You're not.
Yeah. The other thing I will say, this is not about being a Raider fan. This is not about being a fan of a certain organization or a club or anything like that. This is about the integrity of the league. And I hate when things like that get thrown around. But this is a real integrity of the sport kind of deal. You do not back out of things like this, right? Maxx was going to get healthy. We know he was. Maybe he wasn't going to be up to full speed for the first couple weeks of the season. Maybe he requires another surgery. Who cares? He's a generational player. He's a Hall of Fame talent. You put your chips in the middle of the table. You were willing to do the deal. You gotta go through with it. That's number one. Number two now, for the player Maxx Crosby, even though we think about the teams that we root for or rooting, being a fan of a certain team, this sucks for the player. Like you said, Derek,
yeah.
He made that big video. And now this is why I said earlier, Mark Davis has to come in and cool everybody down, because I know Maxx Crosby is not like a super. Yeah, he needs to cool you down too. But
sorry, I'm just passionate about this. This is bad GM work. Anyway, sorry, Alon, go ahead.
No, it really is. But I was just going to say, he needs to cool everybody down. And for Maxx, it is very difficult. I know he's not the most prideful guy in the world. I think he's actually a pretty selfless leader in terms of leading by example, that kind of guy. But it does take a certain amount of swallowing your pride after you've told everybody publicly, I'm gone, thank you, always be a Raider. That sucks. So someone else has to come in, be the bigger man, and really tell people, hey, Maxx is still here. Maxx, I know you probably look like an idiot right now. This is not your fault. This is not your fault at all. John, I don't think Spytek lied. I really don't. GMs don't do that to each other. They just, not if they want to keep credibility, they don't. And that's what the Ravens just lost all of right now. They lost all their credibility.
I would agree. And look, if it comes out that the Raiders did not disclose something important to the Ravens, then they're at fault here too. Yeah. I have to acknowledge that. If there's something significant here where John Spytek and the medical team of the Raiders did not say this to Steve Bisciotti and Eric DaCosta, then they're at fault here. But if it's just simply, well, it is what it is, like you knew that he was getting surgery, the meniscus is not 100%, but we fully intend for him to be healthy by the start of the season, then you shouldn't have backed out of this. This is like, if all the information was there and it's the same information they're getting, and when he's in the building, they just don't feel good about it, and they're still communicating with Trey Hendrickson, and they realize that they could just sign him and not give up 2 first-round picks, then that's bad business. It really is.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going to happen next. I think I can make the argument for Maxx Crosby staying with the team, but it's clear that Maxx wants to go, and it's just incredibly awkward now. And maybe you can sell this to the fans where it is what it is. You can sell it to Maxx also where, sorry, but we're not getting the same draft or the trades compensation that we were hoping for, so we're not making a deal. But it's clear you're not going to get 2 first-round picks. And what sucks is this was the perfect fit. Like when this trade was announced initially, my reaction was Baltimore, that's interesting. Not the team that I was thinking about. Not incredibly sexy as far as a market. But when you think about it, it makes a ton of sense. Baltimore had a down year. They are a perennial playoff team, but this year was the exception. They had terrible luck on defense this year with a ton of injuries, and they need a pass rush. And as we said on the last podcast, he is the best pass rusher they've had since Terrell Suggs, or we're going to have. But now, and it also helps that they were that high of a draft pick. They were 14, where I was looking at the Cowboys, the Rams, because they had 2 first-round picks, but Baltimore was right there. Now you're going to have teams like, the rumor is Chicago's back in on him, and maybe Dallas would be, but they just traded for Rashawn Gary. Those teams, well, yes, the Dallas will be good if it's still a first-round pick, but it probably won't be. Like the Chicago Bears are a later-round pick as well. So I don't know what the hell they should do, honestly. I don't know if it's a good idea to bring Maxx Crosby back because he's already voiced his complaints, and it would be a damn good team now, on paper with the additions they made into Kobe Dean and Quay Walker, and they signed Kwity Paye. They bring back Malcolm Kuntz. So they got a good rotation now with pass rush, not to mention Trey Wilson still on the team. But when it's clear that Maxx Crosby wanted out, is it just now you're doing a solid for a player when he's got this relationship with Mark Davis? It would be bad business on the Raiders to just trade him away for less. But I think at this point, Max has got to be pissed. He's going to go to Mark and be like, well, I'm sorry, but this isn't on me. And this is not on you either, but I can't play for you anymore. I already told you that. Now, you don't have to do a damn thing. You could keep him, but it's just a bad look when you already traded him. And who cares about PR at this point? It's a bad look. Who gives a shit? If he's going to help your football team, then you get through it. But it's just now where you don't want him to be disappointed and not invest in this team when he was on the cusp of going to a playoff team.
I hear you, Derek. I also know that he's been through a ton of losing, since he's been a Raider. He's gone to the playoffs once. They've had one decent season, and they were bounced in the wild card against Cincinnati. If he truly is all about playing football, and that's all he cares about is being on the field 24/7 and just being the best he possibly can, all those things, if those are really true, which I think they are, then he's under contract. You keep him. And if he says, hey, I'm not playing, then that's his decision. But Mark Davis and the Raiders brass should not make that decision for him. They should force him to make that decision for himself. So all I'm saying is he's under contract for 4 more years. Give it till the trade deadline. All that being said, he's a great player. You don't get better by, I'll maintain this, you don't get better by trading away great players unless you're getting something amazing back for them. You're not going to get that anymore. Yeah, the relationship is fractured. We don't know if Maxx Crosby really went up and said, hey, I just can never play for you guys again. We're not sure on that. But what we do know is this. He was frustrated. The Raiders tried to deal him. Things fell through. All that being said, he's back. And you're going to have to figure out how to mend that relationship the best you can for at least 4 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks at the start of the season. That's all it is.
Yeah, and great point made here by the skills report. This just happened last year at the NBA trade deadline. Not the same caliber player, but look how awkward Mark Williams said it was when he was traded out of Charlotte to the Lakers and fell through. He had to stay there when he wasn't necessarily wanted. Yeah, I remember that a year ago. He was a guy, they just made the move for Luka, and they needed help for a rim protector and getting a center, and they traded for him, but he failed his physical and went back. The Lakers rookie, I can't think of his name right now, but he was on the team. They traded him along with Mark Williams. He came back. Just an awkward situation. And you have to do that. That happens in sports sometimes. But when this whole thing was hyped up, Maxx Crosby was the biggest name on the trade block. Leading up to NFL free agency, that's what we were all talking about. And then it finally went down on Friday night. Now, for them to be like, hey, Max, it is what it is. We are not going to get the same trade compensation for you anymore. We just got to make this work. That's a lot to ask of a guy that had his hopes for leaving and is very regimented and is very anal about the success of a football team where they're going to have some struggles with a new regime. But maybe they can sell him on that. If anybody can, it probably is Mark Davis. But, yeah, this is going to be tough. I honestly have no idea where this is going to go. I've never seen anything like this. This is why this is kind of shocking to me. And Pat H. in the chat here says, this quadruple confirms that Derek is still a Raider fan. Look, on today's show on Dirty Work, I had the same take where I think this is bad business by Baltimore. And people in the chat were like, yeah, this is typical Derek. He's a Raider lover. He's going to say how they got screwed over. If the Raiders pulled this on somebody, I would call them out. Seriously. I just like good trades. I like good movement in the NFL. I'll say it again. I was excited to see Maxx Crosby become a Baltimore Raven. I also was excited to see what the Raiders were going to do with their plan for the future with 4 first-round picks in the next 2 seasons. But when that's ripped away because a team is doing some questionable stuff, then I get mad as an NFL fan. This isn't about me being a Raider fan at all. I'm being completely honest with you. I think this is a shady move by Eric DeCosta. I really do. This isn't about, if I was still a Raider fan, I would be happy he's on the roster. And there's now a better shot of him returning. I wanted to see him go. I'm being completely honest. It was time to move off of Maxx Crosby. It was time for the Raiders to get some draft capital back. And I hate the fact that now we don't know what's going to happen with these free agents. Now, it does sound like they'll be able to afford everybody. Mm-hmm. But they were banking on getting that 14th overall pick and having another pick in 2027. So that screws you when you're making your draft plans. I'm sure scouts are already working right now, but for the last however many days it's been, 5 days, you were doing your homework on who's going to be there at 14 once you draft Fernando Mendoza. So I'll say this. It's one thing to fail somebody on a physical when you don't think they're going to be there once the season starts. It's another thing to back out of a trade because you didn't like a guy having knee surgery, but you already knew that, and you don't want to give up 2 first-round picks anymore. Like the way this is phrased between the Ravens and the Raiders, the Ravens say that he failed the physical. The Raiders are saying he backed out, or the Ravens backed out. I wonder, I can't wait to hear more reports on this. I wonder if Eric DeCosta went back to them and said, because of some things that we did not know with the knee injury, or now that we get a better look at him, could we decrease the value? And I'm sure John Spytek's like, no. And that's when they back out. So, and they're always working the phones. There's other free agents available when it comes to pass rush. I'll say this. If Trey Hendrickson signs with them tomorrow, this looks shady. This really does look shady. And we know he's going to make a decision on his new team. So, again, like it's Maxx Crosby. Skills in the chat earlier says the Brooklyn Nets signed Kevin Durant when he had a torn Achilles. You don't know if he's going to be the same guy. So I think I understand it's a gigantic risk when you trade for a player that has a knee injury. But I got to believe that the Baltimore Ravens got all of the information. I got to believe the Raiders did not lie to them, because it was well documented that Maxx Crosby was recovering from a meniscus tear. And some people like Ian Rappaport suggested that maybe the trade was going to take longer past the draft, but teams were aggressive. And you just can't back out because you didn't realize that it may be worse than anticipated. And if that's the case, I understand being weird about that, but I've got to believe the Raiders were honest all the way. So, yeah, I just think that this is it's a bad look by the Ravens. And in the end, nothing's going to happen to them. They'll move forward. They'll sign another pass rusher. I don't know what the Raiders are going to do now.
Well, the Raiders are stuck with Maxx Crosby for the moment. And, hey, pretty good player to be stuck with. I do want to say this as well on this. Look, and I know completely 2 different sports, but Joe Thornton played with a torn ACL and MCL all the way in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I know that's hockey, and that's playing in the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Maxx does not have a torn ACL and a torn MCL. In fact, because if he did, he'd be walking around on crutches in all these public appearances. He is not. He's moving pretty well. And I know he's not on the football field right now, but he's just moving around in his day-to-day life. But he ain't on crutches. He's not in a wheelchair. That's number 1. Number 2, Maxx Crosby has played through multiple injuries. He's had a couple of off seasons now where he's gotten rehab and knee surgery and things like that. We know that he can play through pain and through injury. So, barring some type of, oh man, his knee is just done, one more thing happens to it and he's done, then, and which I do not believe happened. I don't believe that happened at all. So unless that did happen, or if John Spytek would have had to lie about that. So this means that John Spytek is either a liar and that Maxx Crosby has catastrophic knee damage that can never be repaired. I don't think either of those are very likely. And both of those would have had to happen together for this to even fall through the way it did. So you're right, Derek. This is on the Ravens as of now. Now, if more reporting comes out that says the Raiders were shady in what they were trying to do, then yeah, have to reassess the whole situation. But as of now, number one, that's not very likely. And number two, it's just think about how many steps you have to go through for that to be the truth. You have to have a big liar in the GM spot for the Raiders, and you have to have irreparable knee damage for Maxx Crosby, which does not seem by the eye test to be the case. Because if it was the case, they would have shut him down 6 weeks prior to when they eventually shut him down. They wouldn't have shut him down when they were finally tanking. They would have shut him down halfway through the season.
Well, one thing is clear. Alex Guerrero or whoever involved with the Raiders were right to shut down Maxx Crosby for those remaining games. And we've said on this podcast that Max maybe went a little overboard with his reaction to that. I understand he's a regimented individual. You take football away from him, it's going to anger him. But it's clear that that knee was injured, and he's played through injuries before, but it was in the best interest of the Raiders and Maxx Crosby for him to be shut down. And even now we're seeing the ramifications of it where teams aren't comfortable trading for him. So now I don't want this to be like a Carlos Correa situation where the Giants fail him on the physical, and then the next day he goes and signs a big deal with the New York Mets, and they're not comfortable with the physical. So then he signs for a lesser deal to go back to the Twins. And again, that was a free agent. We're talking about a trade here. You're screwing over the Raiders. That's the truth. Like, yes, the Ravens don't want to be tied to a player that, has a, doesn't have knee cartilage. But that's not the case here. I got to believe that's not the case. Multiple teams were in on this guy. So I wonder if this is going to scare teams away to the point where nobody's interested. But it sounds like teams are still interested. But GMs are not dumb. They're not going to be like, well, if the Baltimore Ravens offer 2 first-round picks, then we got to do the same thing. They're going to lower the price. And it would be smart for the Raiders not to do anything. But what is Maxx Crosby going to do? I can't wait for his next podcast, whenever that may be. And do they feel pressure to get something done by tomorrow? Because that's the start of the new league year officially. The deals with Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean and Kwity Paye, all those deals will be official. Can you take all that salary on with Maxx Crosby? Multiple people are saying yes, but we'll see. We'll see what actually happens. So, yeah, man. When it's all said and done, Alon, we've exhausted this conversation. There's not much more we can do than speculate. Do you think when it's all said and done that Maxx Crosby's on the team to start the season, or do you think they trade him because at this point he just doesn't want to be there?
I think this was their one shot to get the value that they deemed appropriate for him. I think the Raiders, in a lot of ways, were looking for reasons not to trade Maxx Crosby. What I'm saying is they made the asking price so high where if they didn't get it, they weren't going to take it. And originally I thought it was 2 1s and a player. It seems to be that asking price was just 2 1s. But they're not going to get that now. And if you really do stand on business, if you want to be good at, maintaining an organization, being credible, all these kinds of things, being taken seriously, you don't just let him go for pennies now. You just can't. You'd rather, it's better for you as an organization if he said, hey, I'm not playing. And you said, fine, we'll pay you and we'll figure it out later. But, we're just not going to let you go for nothing. And then if the results are there on the field, then you look at him and you go, hey, feel like playing? And I don't think he's that kind of person. Everything he's done throughout his professional career indicates he is not that kind of person. So, look, I think his next best chance of getting traded is before the actual trade deadline. And it might not even happen there because you might just get pennies back for him. And guess what? He's worth a whole lot of pennies, not just a couple. So I think that's the way it works out now. I think he's a Raider for the foreseeable future. And in the grand scheme of things, if they turn it around the way the Patriots did, and maybe that's wishful thinking, but if they turn it around the way the Patriots did, then this works out better than you could have ever imagined. You just had to go through a whole hell of a lot of drama to have it happen that way. Real quick, Derek.
Yeah.
Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker, Kwity Paye, Tyler Linderbaum, all these guys that they've brought in here now. They all got to be on the horn, all those defensive guys especially, and Tyler Linderbaum maybe too. And they got to be texting Matt. I don't let him have his space. No. Call him, text him, take him out to dinner, whatever it is. Bring a gift by his house and say, hey, we'd really like you to stay now, Max. And Tyler Linderbaum should be like, Baltimore's not that great either. All they got is blue crab, whatever the hell they have over there. And hey, Las Vegas is really nice. You already have a home. Why leave? But those defensive guys seriously should be like, hey, we got some good players here. You're another really great player. We'd love to have you. So I'm assuming his phone should be getting blown up. If it already hasn't by those guys, it will tomorrow when their deals become official, because the Raiders are not backing out of signing those guys. And I don't think those guys are in the business of backing out of their deals that they've agreed on either, because agents don't like doing that, because the agent's going to lose their guaranteed bonus.
Exactly. It's got to be just a slew of emotions for Maxx Crosby right now on that flight coming home to Vegas from Baltimore, where he thought he found his new home, a championship contender, playing with Lamar Jackson, and now going back to the Raiders, which he said he'll always be a Raider. He has love for Raider Nation, but it's one thing to give a heart-filled speech and prepare for something to come to an end, and then for that door to be open again and go back into it where you're like, all right, I'm not leaving yet. I don't know how Maxx Crosby's going to feel about this. It could be where he realizes, you know what? This is God's plan telling me I should stay a Raider. I wonder what Mark Davis would do now if Max, like if it's clear that the Chicago Bears really want Maxx Crosby and they're willing to give something less than a first round pick, and Max is like, I know it's not the best deal for you guys, but I really want to go. Is Mark going to be like, let's just do the deal? That would be bad business. That would be bad. Like, just as much as it's bad business for Eric DeCosta to back out of this deal, it will be bad business for Mark Davis to come in as the owner just to be like, we got to do a solid for Max. John Spytek did his damn job and got 2 first-round picks for this player. And in the end, he got screwed over. I don't think, if you're asking me what should happen, I think John Spytek should stand his ground and be like, you know what? Sorry. Max, I'm going to build a great team around you, and we have great players on defense now, but you're worth more than just a second-round pick and a third-round pick. I got you for 2 first-round picks, and you're that type of player. So I know you're upset, but I can't trade you for anything less than that. And I think Maxx Crosby would respect that. It's just hard because you have that deal, and I think Maxx Crosby has to understand the business of trades in the NFL too, and he knows he's worth more than what probably is being offered at this moment. So,
yeah,
if you're asking me, God, I can't wait to see what happens in the next few hours or the next few days here, because I think it's going to just be a shit show when it comes to this, with this guy back on the market. I think he stays. Yeah. Even though he was not 1 foot out the door, he was out the door. He was flying there. And now they tell him your knee's not good enough. It's insane, but it would be bad business for John Spytek to take anything less than 2 first-round picks. And it's bad timing. So the only thing you can do now is hope that Maxx Crosby is invested into this new regime. You know, he's got his guy, Rob Leonard, at defensive coordinator, so that may be able to ease the pain a little bit. But you got to just tell Max it is what it is, and if we're not winning, then we'll trade you at the deadline if we get 2 first-round picks in return. So, yeah, I'm with the Rom. I'm with the Lon. I do think Maxx Crosby's going to stay, but it's going to be awkward now. It has to be.
I see her in the chat. Yeah, Chewy won't be anywhere near a first rounder now. I agree. And then Skills Report said Crosby should just walk around Baltimore pass rushing people to show the Ravens what they missed out on. Skills, it's a good point, because there's this pass rusher summit that happens, every off season, and sometimes it's in Las Vegas. I think they've had ones in Atlanta. Sometimes it's in LA. There's going to be a chance for Maxx Crosby to show people that he can move around. That's very important. So I know you're kind of joking there, but he will have an opportunity to do that this offseason, just working on his own technique. The other thing, if his knee was in that bad of shape, he would not be on an airplane. He just wouldn't be flying. You can't do it. It would make the inflammation worse. It would screw up his recovery timetable, all those kinds of things. So I'm inclined to believe that's not the case. The other thing, yeah.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
The other thing we haven't really dug into here, Derek, but I think it's important from the Baltimore angle, is Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson has had frustrations over the past couple of years now with Baltimore. He's just lost his great 25-year-old, 3-time Pro Bowl center, right? And the last time the Ravens had a guy who made the Pro Bowl 3 times in a row on the offensive line was Marshall Yanda. Okay. So they just lost Linderbaum. He was so excited for Maxx Crosby to come over and finally be that pass rush force for his defense because he knows that's what's keeping them from getting to the mountaintop. What does Lamar Jackson do now? I'm not saying Lamar Jackson all of a sudden goes, well, to hell with this. I'm done. I don't want to be in Baltimore. But this has to play into that too, because even though they're not on the same side of the ball, Lamar Jackson was like, okay, we're going in the right direction again. This is going to get us to where we want to go. And now
he's excited.
He was excited. And now you've lost that. And now some of that doubt has to start creeping back into his mind. Like, man, I've given it my all here in Baltimore. I've run and passed and done everything you can basically do for this team, and we haven't been able to get it done. And I am a little bit frustrated. And that frustration, if they have another bad season now, whether they go out and get Trey Hendrickson or not, if they have another subpar season that's not up to his standards, what the hell is that going to do for them?
Yeah. Well, it sounds like he's going to get a contract extension, and I think that he's bound to stay there. They're not going to move on from him. There has been rumors about that, but if they end up signing another defensive end, then I think he'll be fine. I think in the end they'll give him a contract, and it sounds like there was some weird things going on with John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson, and Steve Bisciotti's going to do everything in his power to make him happy. Again, they weren't comfortable with this move, but I think that they're going to make it worth Lamar Jackson's while. And I just want to play this because I haven't seen any reaction to this as far as like people on television saying if it's Baltimore's fault or the Raiders' fault. I was just reacting in real time, where when I see this news, it sounds shady to me from Baltimore's front. But everybody on KNBR was telling me today I'm crazy and the Baltimore Ravens did the smart thing. But let's hear from people that actually cover the league. This is Tom Pelissero on the Insiders. Oh, hang on one second. Let me share my screen with you guys. And he's basically saying what I've been saying, that this is on the Baltimore Ravens. So here's Tom Pelissero on the Insiders and NFL Network reacting to the news that the Baltimore Ravens are not going to trade for Maxx Crosby.
At this point, I would say this. The reaction from other people within the NFL that I am getting is predominantly about how the Ravens pulled the rug out, regardless of what their reasoning was. This just does not happen. It has happened on multiple other occasions in the past on much smaller trades or agreements involving the Ravens. However, when you're talking about trading 2 first-round picks, this is not an unknown issue with Maxx Crosby. Everyone knew he had a knee injury. Everyone knew he finished on injured reserve. Everyone knew, based on Ian's reporting, that he had a meniscus surgery that was actually not just a trim, but a meniscus repair that has a longer-term type of a timeline. But that did not stop several teams from offering a first-round pick and more as part of a trade offer. It did not stop the Ravens from offering 2 first-round picks. This is not a situation where you put in a bid in an online auction, and then if you don't like the item, you return it via Amazon. This is a trade involving a superstar player in the NFL. Clearly, they came to the conclusion that there was something they were not comfortable with. And again, it does bear mentioning. 32 teams, 32 doctors, 32 degrees of risk tolerance. What one team might be willing to accept, whether it's in the draft process, a free agent signing, a trade, is something that another team might say, we're simply not going to go there. That's why every year, we're going through the pre-draft process right now, you'll hear about players having medical flags. There might be 31 teams who say, we won't pass this guy. We won't put a uniform on him. But if one team is willing to do it, then that player is going to play in the NFL. Maxx Crosby is a known commodity with a known injury. Clearly, something happened. He was in Baltimore today, posting on social media, obviously went through a medical process, after which the Ravens, for one reason or another, and again, to your point, we have not heard from the Ravens to this point, the Ravens decided we are not following through with this trade. It does not happen often in the NFL. It definitely does not happen at this level, this type of a blockbuster trade. Maxx Crosby, once again, is on the Raiders. He is right back on the trade block. Other teams, again, I will emphasize this, the Cowboys would remain interested. They were the runner-up to the Ravens. Well, other teams that I'm calling, I'm missing the calls right now from other teams trying to figure out what's going on because all the other pass rushers have gotten agreements. Do the Ravens now, who didn't get a pass rusher, try to flip one of those players that agreed to a deal someplace else because now they need another pass rusher for that defense? There are so many different tentacles to this. We never see this happen. It is going to be a free agency frenzy that has now gone into a physical frenzy. How about that, Patrick Claybon, on a Tuesday night?
Yeah.
See, and Tom Pelissero is not even a Raiders fan, and he's as passionate about this as I am because this is it's a bad look. So however you want to look at this, where Eric DaCosta may have been fooled by John Spytek, that does not appear to be the case. So, and Tom Pelissero better than I could say it, and he's fantastic on TV. I will give him credit for that, the way he articulates his words. You can't just, as he put it, put a bid on Amazon Prime and then pull it out because you don't like what you see. That's what I think happened here. This is total speculation on my part, but I got to believe that Maxx Crosby was in the facility. They saw the knee, didn't love it, but they also knew that Trey Hendrickson was still available. So they're going to pivot now. That's what I'm looking at tomorrow. If Trey Hendrickson signs with the Baltimore Ravens, yikes.
Real quick about the difference between local radio, whether it's in the Bay Area or somewhere else, and then the NFL Network. The NFL Network is owned by the NFL. Everything that's aired there, this is a legitimate problem that Pelissero has and people on the NFL Network have with what just happened because it's not good for the league. So I'm not saying that it's all master controlled from the top and every little thing that goes out over their airwaves is micromanaged, but you're on company airwaves is what you are over at NFL Network. Derek, you used to work there. Mm-hmm. So when Tom Pelissero says something like that, I tend to agree with it because that's what it looks like. It looks like the Ravens, to use his words, pulled the rug out from under the Raiders. That's what it looks like right now. If more details come out, I know we've talked this to death, but if more details come out, we can always shift our opinions, man, because that's what normal, reasonable people do. They work with the information they have. They don't just make an emotional, kind of assessment of things. But let's just look at what we have, all the evidence that we have so far. It looks like pretty overwhelmingly that the Ravens got cold feet for whatever reason, and they knew what they were getting into. So not excusable for them. They should suffer the ultimate business reputation cost. Agreed.
And we'll see what happens here. We talked about this a long time now, almost an hour. It's baffling to me. It's surprising. As Tom Pelissero said, it's a trade of this magnitude to back out of. It's a bad look. So I'm going over and over again with the same phrases. You know how I feel about this. It's not anything to do with me being a former Raider fan. Alon will tell you, I was an Oakland Raider fan.
He's an Oakland fan, yeah.
I am not a Las Vegas Raiders fan. It has nothing to do with my allegiance back in the day to a team that my dad broadcasted for many years. You can understand why I fell in love with that team. It's not the same anymore. He's not there. They're not here in Oakland anymore. I will always bleed silver and black, but I do not have the same passion that I had for the Raiders as I once did. Alon will tell you, I was crazy and I lived and died with every game. I do not feel that way anymore. But I am not happy that the Raiders organization was screwed over by Eric DaCosta and the Baltimore Ravens. Yeah. So we'll move on to something else, and we'll see what happens with this if Maxx Crosby remains on the team. I just want to get your thoughts, Alon, on some of the moves made yesterday that the Raiders did make. We hope that all these players remain on the roster. This seems like a silly conversation to have after what transpired with Maxx Crosby, but with Tyler Linderbaum, with Nakobe Dean, with Quay Walker, and Kwity Paye. And we talked about the trade for Teron Johnson, but the Raiders make a ton of big moves. I'll give you the exact numbers and everything on the contracts, but just your reaction to the moves that John Spytek made yesterday.
I love the Linderbaum move. I mean, I like all the moves, but I really love the Anyway, I really love the Linderbaum move. The last time I thought the Raiders had a very good and possibly sustainable competitive team was when they had Rodney Hudson anchoring the offensive line. So I tend to view this move very similar to that Rodney Hudson move about 10, 11 years ago now.
Yeah.
So I think that, and I know they made him the richest paid ever interior offensive lineman of all time. You know what? That line real quick has to stop getting thrown around. I know it's important, but Alec Pierce just became the highest paid free agent wide receiver of all time for his contract. That'll get broken again next year. That stuff doesn't matter. So what matters is that you secured someone on your team. I tend to believe that all these people will be on the team. Nakobe Dean has had some ups and downs with the injuries, but when he's on the field, he's elite. Quay Walker, no questions there. He was great for the Packers. He's been a very good player. I think that's awesome. Kwity Paye, a bit of a question mark because the production isn't always there, and his pass rush win rate and his pressure rate were very low. I think he was actually the lowest among qualified edge defenders this past season for the Colts. But hey, you know what? There's still talent there. There's a reason he was a first-round draft pick. And that's probably why he got the contract that he did. That being said, the production was still better than Boye Mafe Boye from Seattle. And Clint Kubiak had a front row seat to watch that guy play. So the fact that they went after a guy like Kwity Paye instead of someone who was over there in Seattle with him, that says a lot. The other thing, real quick, regarding the slot corner from Buffalo, Teron Johnson. That's a great pickup too. Aaron Rodgers has sung his praises since 2022. He has led the league in defensive stops for a cornerback. That's pretty good. I know you want more interceptions, but hey, tackles are important too. So I think the Raiders did a really good job of going out and re-signing Eric Stokes was good too. Their biggest questionable move, and it's not the sexy thing to talk about, is signing Matt Gay. That is very weird because he was not as good as Daniel Carlson has been. That being said, Daniel Carlson's game has kind of fell off too. That's another Oakland Raider who is gone. So now, well, we got another one back. So now it's Maxx Crosby and Colton Miller. But overall, I would say that former Niner, Matt Gay.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's familiarity there with Kubiak as well. But that would be the only questionable move. But kickers, they're like pitchers. They might have a couple of bad years and all of a sudden they're automatic again for whatever reason. I don't know why it is. Kicking a football is a very weird thing. It's a weird shaped ball that you're hitting, and the thing can fly anywhere. And kicking in Allegiant is very easy, I would say. There's no wind to deal with, things like that. That's their one questionable move. Other than that, though, they've knocked it out of the park. And I think this is very telling. I think Clint Kubiak has confidence that he can get a good offensive line this year with many of the same players. I think the Linderbaum signing is very interesting because it takes away two positions of need, basically. It fills the center spot, right? It automatically slots JPJ into the guard spot. So yeah, maybe you have another guard spot that you have to fill, and you probably need a right tackle. They've needed a right tackle for a long time. But all of that being said, they loaded up on defense. So that tells me that Clint Kubiak is confident that he can get the most out of this offense because he believes in Ashton Genty, and he also thinks he can get what was the worst offensive line in football last year to a good rank. I'm not saying elite, but he can get them to a good ranking. So if that does come to fruition, all these defensive moves are perfect because although the defense wasn't the biggest problem with the team, they have never had an elite defense, not since 2002. And in 2007, but the team won 2 games. Yeah. So it's been a long time since the Raiders have had a really good defense. Another thing real quick. I know Rob Leonard is the DC now. They're switching to a 3-4 base. Okay. That means maybe you can move a big safety into the box every once in a while too as a linebacker. You can do all kinds of things, but they have the personnel for that. Tyree Wilson is meant to play 5 technique, not to be an outside pass rusher. He's meant to shift inside and out and be head up on the tackle, right? Maxx Crosby, if he stays, he's going to be great with his hand not in the dirt. I know he prefers playing with the hand in the dirt, but he'd be great as a stand-up rusher too. Kwity Paye, better suited as a 5 technique. One last thing on this before I lose this point, Derek. The 3-4 defense, every time this is not analytical at all, but every time the Raiders have been good and won a Super Bowl, they've had a 3-4 defense. So I'll just put that out there as well. But yeah, they've done a great job. And I know we're going to get into Niners as well. I think the Niners knocked it out of the park with Mike Evans. I'm so happy. I look so smart for saying they got to get Mike Evans, and then they did. But no, to my own horn. But I love Mike Evans. I'm a Mike Evans fan. Loved him in college, loved him in the NFL, and he should get at least 10 to 12 touchdowns this year with Brock Purdy throwing him the rock.
Yeah, we'll talk about Mike Evans a little bit here, but everything you said with the Raiders and the offensive line, it's well documented, and we've seen it firsthand. how bad their offensive line was a year ago. And they missed Colton Miller. They missed Jackson Powers Johnson. Tyler Linderbaum was, in my opinion, the number one free agent available just at his position. If you're going to overpay for somebody, you might as well do it with him. What do you think, though, about Jackson Powers Johnson? It was a whole controversy a year ago where Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly wanted him to move to guard. People thought that he was really strong at center his rookie year. What do you think about now that being solidified going forward, where if he's going to remain on the Raiders, he's going to have to be a right guard?
That's the way it's going to go. And he's not going to win that job from Tyler Linderbaum. Even if Linderbaum was just already on the team and had played the level that he had played, not just take the contract stuff out of it. He's not there to take that job away from Tyler. He's just not. And yes, his primary position may be at center. That's what he played at Oregon. He's a damn good center. But he has the ability to be a very, very good guard as well. And I'm talking Pro Bowl level guard. And I know Pro Bowls now aren't as noteworthy as they used to be, but it's still a nice mark of high achievement when you're playing. I think JPJ has the ability to be that kind of player at guard. And I think his biggest thing is he just wants to play. And for whatever reason, there was friction there between the last coaching staff and this new coaching staff and him. And I don't think you have that with this new coaching staff. And I think Clint Kubiak's offense and his philosophy allows a guy like JPJ to get downhill, to blow linebackers up, to not have to just block the man in front of him every time, to pull, to do things like that. And I know it's more of a zone game, but he's a very athletic offensive lineman. I think he's going to be perfect in this system.
Yeah, I mean, the offensive line definitely needed to improve. And by getting the number one offensive lineman on the market, it's a win for the Raiders. But then again, we'll see what happens here with Maxx Crosby still on the roster. I got to believe that everything will be fine, but this changes things. But just the sake of having the conversation of who they acquired, I said yesterday, Alon, that in my time watching the Raiders, even with the 2006 team, even with the 2002 team, they never really have had a great run defense. It's always been an issue. So by getting Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean, two guys from Georgia to be your middle linebackers, that has to improve. So that's a good move there. I have to believe that. Again, like, you can make a ton of moves in free agency. The truth is this team will improve with what they do in the draft. You know, we've seen it a million times where teams go overboard and spend in free agency. Happened with the Redskins, you know, with Albert Hainsworth and all the bad moves they made. It's not about what you do in free agency. It's splashy moves. We're all excited. They have to build this Raiders team within the draft. That's what John Spytek is going to prove if he's a good GM or not. The Jalen Naylor move I liked as well, but he can't be your number one option. I think that, you know, with Trey Tucker there, he could play that Rashid Shaheed role that Kubiak had with him in Seattle, and he goes back to Seattle, Rashid Shaheed, that is. I still think they need a number one wide receiver. And yesterday I was saying, you know, if the Maxx Crosby news didn't happen, the topic today would have been, who can the Raiders go after still as far as wide receiver? Romeo Doubs was available by the time that we were talking about things this morning, but he has signed with the New England Patriots, 4 years, $80 million. So he's off the table, obviously. And the only guy that remains is Juwan Jennings, who has familiarity with Clint Kubiak back in the day with the 49ers. I wonder if Juwan, at this point, the fact that he hasn't signed must mean that he's not happy with the trade offers or the contract offers. I doubt he'll go back to the 49ers at this point. I don't really know if they can afford him. So I think the team that desperately needs a wide receiver one, that's, you know, the teams that are out there right now, are probably the Chargers, the Raiders, and the Broncos, all AFC West teams. I don't think the Chargers would overspend for Juwan Jennings. I think that the Broncos want to hold out for something better. And then again, A.J. Brown's still on the table. I know that Romeo Doubs signed with the Patriots, but can they make that move still? Will teams like the Broncos and the Chargers get involved in June, you know, post-June 1st? What does it kill them with the cap hit? But do the Raiders make sense for Juwan Jennings at this point? The familiarity with Kubiak, being a number one option, you may have to overpay for him a little bit, but at this point, I think the Raiders, and they still got the draft, obviously, but there's nobody on this team right now. I know Jack Besh is still there. I know Dante Thornton's still there, but just a reliable veteran receiver to move the chains for you. Is Juwan Jennings a good option?
He'd be the guy. They have the money to make it happen, regardless of whether Max's contract is retained for the long term or not. They have the cap space to make it happen. For Juwan Jennings, the longer he waits, it gets to that point where the bargaining range really shrinks. There's a number that he wants, and then the number that he wants is very far away from reality, and the number that teams are willing to pay him is going to get really small. So the earlier he signs, the better for him personally. Now, if he waits and waits and waits, and then there's a team who's really desperate, they might end up overpaying for him. But if you're the Raiders and and the wide receiver was a position of major weakness last year for the Raiders, and it has been for a little while. So, well, since Devontae's been gone. And even when Devontae was there, Jacoby was really good too. But when he left, you could really see the cracks in that position room. So I think for the Raiders, it would be a really good move. I think it'd be kind of that last capstone piece you get. You know, you've solidified your defense up the middle, at least for the most part. You still need to go find a big nose guard who can take on the middle of an offensive line, but you can find those guys. As far as Jawan Jennings, I think he's a perfect fit. He's a good continuity fit with Clint Kubiak, good veteran presence. I think other guys can learn from him. And I think you have almost all the other roles pretty much filled. You have your speedsters. You have two speedsters now with Naylor and Tucker. And you got another one in Thornton who has separation issues in terms of actually getting open. But I think Kubiak can get him better there. And here's the other thing. You still have Brock Bowers. And I'm assuming Brock Bowers is going to be healthy for the entire season this year. And you have the X Factor, who I know is a damn good player, who we just haven't been able to see either be on the field or put it all together yet for whatever reason. And that's Michael Mayer, Big Mike. He is a very good player. He crushed it at Notre Dame. He has all the skills in the world. I need to see at least double the amount of targets he's ever gotten in his career. It needs to be double. So if his high has been 40 in his career, I want to see him get around 50 to 60. I think Michael Mayer and Brock Bowers need to be the focal points, Brock Bowers especially, but I think the tight ends need to be very strong on this team for Clint Kubiak to have success. And I think Jawan Jennings takes pressure away from Brock Bowers.
Yeah, they have other moves they need to make. So we'll see if they get that wide receiver one, and the best option out there is Jawan Jennings. So we'll see what other moves they could make in the next couple of days here. But one name to keep an eye on is with the ramifications of Travis Etienne going to New Orleans. And this guy has always said, if I am traded, I'll retire. I only want to stay in one team the rest of my life. But when that team replaces you with somebody younger, are you more inclined to go out on your own? Alvin Kamara actually had a pretty good season with Clint Kubiak a couple of years ago. I know they won a 1-2 punch with the running back situation with Genty and possibly somebody else. Not saying that's the best option. It's a different type of running back, more of a, they run a zone scheme with Clint Kubiak, but more of a pass-catching guy. Can he be that McCaffrey-type player for the Raiders offense? Look out for Alvin Kamara as a possible name. I said last night the Broncos, but that's just because he knows Sean Payton very well. Is it more of a scheme fit where Alvin Kamara can team up with Ashton Genty? We don't need to go into detail on that, but that's just an option I've been thinking about for the Raiders after what happened yesterday. So, like all the moves the Raiders have made, let's just see if they remain on the team after what's happened with Maxx Crosby. Real quick, Alon, your thoughts on Mike Evans going to the 49ers? I talked about it yesterday. I think it's a good move, not a great move. You're getting an older wide receiver for a reasonable contract, but it fills a void that the Niners, a type of player they haven't had in quite some time, where he is a true X outside wide receiver that could go deep, get you 50-50 balls, go up and, snag passes over defenders. Going to be a red zone threat, much like the way the Rams used Devontae Adams. What's your thoughts on Mike Evans ending his 12-year career with the Buccaneers to sign with the 49ers?
It's a hell of a run in Tampa Bay for him. And I thought he was going to retire as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. He will go back and retire with the one-day contract. But I thought he was never going to go anywhere else. He's now a 49er. I love it for the Niners. I know there's some questions about, he only played 8 games last year. You know what? He's been durable as heck his entire career. I have full confidence that he's going to be back. And to me, it doesn't really matter where the speed is at. He's already an older wide receiver. And, he'll be 33, I think, by the end of next season, if that's correct. Let me look a bit. He'll be 33 at the start of next season.
Yeah, he will be. Yeah, 33.
So, but I don't have a problem with that. For what they're going to use him for what they should use him for as the ultimate red zone target, like you brought up Devontae with the Rams, They need that. That's the punch they've been missing because their options have been very limited in the red zone. It's either been McCaffrey or Kittle when you have them, and that's about it. So to be able to have someone truly on the outside that Brock Purdy can actually just run a play, not have to run around sometimes and make something magical happen, or not just rely on McCaffrey hammering it in or doing some type of gadget play, it's going to be very nice for that offense to just line him up. If you see there's one-on-one coverage, or hell, even if the safety is shaded there, I can throw it in the corner, and guess who's going to get it? Big 6'5" Mike Evans. It's a phenomenal pickup. If I was a Niners fan, I'm not a Niner fan, and I'm excited for it because I think he's going to have a lot of success there because they're very good at getting to the red zone. I need to see them be lethal in the red zone now, and I think that brings that. Maybe he's only a one-tool guy now. Maybe he's just a red zone guy, but I don't care. He's a red zone guy who's going to catch 10 to 12 touchdowns.
Do you think that he is the best wide receiver that Kyle Shanahan's had since his last year with the Atlanta Falcons in being offensive coordinator with Julio Jones? Different type of player now. He's not the same guy he used to be, but let's be honest. Deebo Samuel, more of a yards after catch wide receiver, Swiss Army knife. Brandon Ayuk, not a true wide receiver one in my opinion. Again, Mike Evans is not the guy that he was in Tampa for the majority of his career, but is he that type of wide receiver that Kyle had once upon a time with Julio?
Julio, I will always rank above Mike Evans, just in terms of he went to Bama too, not A&M. But Julio's an amazing player, maybe the best wide receiver I ever got to see play in person. I didn't see him at Bama; I saw him in the NFL.
Right.
But I'm not that old, guys. But I think for Kyle, this is the best receiver. I agree with you, Derek. I think this is the most talented, kind of like cheat code kind of guy that you have. This is a guy who can just win any matchup. It doesn't matter how you're playing him, whether it's press off, whether you shade him with the safety over the top. I mean, there's going to be situations where teams are going to double bracket him in the red zone, and that's going to open up everything else. And there's going to be situations where teams do that, and Brock throws him the ball, and it won't matter. There's not a damn thing you can do sometimes against Mike Evans because you can throw it up, and he'll jump up and go get it. So I think this is the most talented kind of alpha receiver that Kyle's had since Julio, and definitely the number one guy in terms of since he's been in San Francisco.
Yeah, no, I think it's a solid move. And again, that does not stop the 49ers from getting younger at wide receiver. They could still address that need in the draft. They definitely need to sign back Trent Williams. I don't think that's a luxury that they can afford to just move on from him and go with a lesser left tackle, whether that's Taylor Decker or whoever's available on the open market right now. So it's kind of a mixed deal where the 49ers, they're trying to get experience at the wide receiver position, but get younger on defense. They're bringing back, obviously, Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, but it's where we were talking about today on the radio, where the Rams definitely know what their needs are, where it's kind of a mixed deal with the 49ers. Again, like if they're trying to compete for a Super Bowl, they need Trent Williams. So it just kind of signals to me, like if you're getting Mike Evans and then you're trade away Trent Williams, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me. So yeah, again, it's not a move that fills the void of getting younger and faster a wide receiver, but you want his experience. You know, it's good to have a guy like that that's won a Super Bowl to light a fire under the ass of a Ricky Pearsall or Jacob Cowing or Jordan Watkins. So that helps, and he definitely fits with this 49ers culture. You know, I think he's going to buy into whatever Fred Warner says, and he has experience winning a Super Bowl back in the day with Tampa Bay just 6 years ago with Tom Brady. So, yeah, I think this is a solid move to add to the culture and to add to the leadership that is sorely needed in that wide receiver room. So, yeah, we'll see other moves. The 49ers, again, they don't have a ton of cap space. They definitely don't have the same that the Raiders do. And let me know if you still have me, Alon. My computer's kind of wigging out on me here. But okay, am I frozen though?
You are.
Oh, damn it. All right. Well, we've been going a long time here. Real quick, I want to get your thoughts on some of the moves that were made today. Not a ton, but Tyreek Woolen, who was one of the top corners available, signs a 1-year deal with the Philadelphia Eagles. And, you know, the Eagles always make additions however they can, and that's something that they needed to improve upon was their corner opposite Quinyon Mitchell. Cooper DeJean so good in the slot. They lost Reed Blankenship. He leaves to go to the Houston Texans. But My biggest thing, and I brought it up all season long, and especially when the Niners were playing them, Adoree Jackson was a liability at the second corner spot. So they definitely upgrade there with Tariq Woolen. That was a name that was attached to the 49ers and other teams out there that were looking for some corner help. But I think that's a big-time move for Howie Roseman, where he doesn't have a ton of salary cap space, and they saw Jalen Phillips leaving free agency yesterday for a astronomical number, but it definitely fills a need that they needed to get a solid corner opposite Quinyon Mitchell.
No, it's a great signing. The only thing that they're probably a little frustrated with is just the length of the contract. I think Tariq Woolen's a really good player. That being said, maybe he was just on a really good defense, but I think he's good and he's still very young. So if he performs well, there's potential to extend him there and get him beyond just the 1-year deal. I think for the Eagles as well, and back to the Niners too, Caleb Von Chason's still out there. So if you're a team that's looking for pass rush, or if you're a team like the Eagles that have just lost some pass rush, that's a guy to go get, because maybe you have to overpay for him, but he's proven that he's talented.
I actually think, Alon, I'm just going to double check here as my internet's going to screw it up on me. I think Chason did sign with the Commanders. I could be wrong on that, but I'm trying to confirm that right now.
I think that's they're talking about it, but I don't actually think he's signed.
I want to say I saw that notification earlier today, and sorry, my internet. I don't even know what I look like right now. I know I'm frozen probably, but my internet is down. I don't know how I'm still on with you guys, but let me get confirmation on that with Chase on. Other moves that were made today. Just one more. Isaiah Pacheco, long time with the Kansas City Chiefs, signs with the Detroit Lions to go with that 1-2 punch of Jahmyr Gibbs and him. So he's the new Knuckles to go with that. I think it's a solid move. He's a hard runner. He's not David Montgomery, but I think if the Lions are trying to get back to that 1-2 punch and improve with their offensive line, it's not a bad addition when it comes to running back.
Yeah, no, it's good. And I've just been looking up. They signed per Jeremy Fowler, the Commanders signed I'm just pulling up the tweet here. Sorry. Odafe Owe. So 4 years, $100 million. And he reports, this was 4 hours ago, one name that comes up often for them in league circles is Caleb Von Chason. So
okay,
I guess he's still out there.
Yeah. So yeah, I have that that's my mistake. I guess they're tied to him, but not officially signing with the Commanders just yet. Real quick before we get out of here, I want to talk about the move that went down with the Raiders. Not Maxx Crosby, because we've exhausted that, but Geno Smith. We knew he was going to get released, but if there was going to be a last-ditch effort from a team to acquire him, they were going to do that. And the Jets come in and was the team that initially drafted him in this league as a second-round pick. And the Raiders trade him away for a sixth-round pick. They do a pick swap, whatever it was. But he's on the team now. He's going to be that starting quarterback for the Jets. I don't know how serious the Jets are because they made some questionable moves the last few days. Demario Davis, a longtime veteran with them. Minka Fitzpatrick was traded from the Dolphins to the Jets. They made another move today. I'm blanking on who else it was when it comes to their defense. I think Aaron Glenn wants to build a good defense because he'll probably be the scapegoat for this if they don't win, and he'll be axed when they're trying to tank, but at least he wants to have a contending team. It was that cornerback from the Chicago Bears. For a team that did not get a single interception a year ago, the Jets set that record. They go out and get some corner help. But as far as Geno Smith, that doesn't really exude any confidence in me that the Jets are turning things around. It's pretty clear to me that even though they went out and got this pretty good coaching staff with Frank Reich as offensive coordinator and Bill Musgrave as their quarterback coach, they're not serious about contending this year. I think they were all in on the quarterbacks of 2027. They probably have their eyes set on Arch Manning. And I thought that maybe Derek Carr was going to be an option for them, given his familiarity with Bill Musgrave back in the day of him being the offensive coordinator of the Raiders. Frank Reich tried to recruit him to come play for the Carolina Panthers. And at one point in time, the Jets did say when they were negotiating with Derek Carr as a free agent, but they really wanted Aaron Rodgers. This might have been just the most, hyperbolic statement ever that the Jets released, but they viewed Derek Carr as a future Hall of Famer. And in the end, he went to the Saints. Aaron Rodgers went to the Jets. But would there still be interest there? It's a new coaching staff. Obviously it's not the same, as Robert Saleh and Nathaniel Hackett knew, or I guess it was Todd Downing that was on the coaching staff that knew Derek Carr, obviously from the Raider days. But would that be something that Derek Carr would be interested in? Because I heard him on with my buddy John Middlecoff. He went on his podcast, the 3 and Out podcast, and said that he's only going to go to a team if he's going to have a chance to contend. And I thought that was going to be the Minnesota Vikings, but it sounds like tomorrow it's going to be where Kyler Murray joins them. And I don't know that whole situation with J.J. McCarthy, how that benefits him. But when you look around the league, there's no other place for Derek Carr. So I initially thought when he retired a year ago that he was going to come back and teams would be after him. But it sounds like nobody has interest. So I'll say this. I enjoyed watching Derek Carr play more than others, especially Raider fans. The way they treated him that last game at the Coliseum, I think, is just terrible. But with Derek, he's really solid on the mic. When he does his podcast, when that YouTube, I think it was a halftime show or pregame show, whatever it was, and just listening to him talk, he's not bad. So if I'm Derek Carr, I look to get into television this year because it sounds like the league is just moving on without you.
You become Tony Romo is what you do, a different version of him with a Jim, I don't know.
Oh,
Jim, where's the bathroom? But no, Derek Carr, not a Hall of Famer. Very good player, though. All-time leading passer for the Raiders in franchise history. I think there's a better chance of him coming back to the Raiders and playing than there is of him going to the Jets. I don't think the interest is there for him to go to New York. Regarding what New York has done, Minka Fitzpatrick, T'Vondre Sweat, Joseph Asai, like Nahshon Wright, who you mentioned, the cornerback.
Wright, that was him.
Yeah, darn good cornerback. 5 picks last year for the Bears, but I don't know what they're building. And getting Geno Smith, I mean, that's just saying, hey, we need to have a team that is semi-serviceable so we can go get the quarterback that we really want next year. I don't really understand what they're doing. It's very difficult too when you've had the coaching turnover that they've had, but that's how things are going to start there. And they franchise tagged Breece Hall.
Yeah, which is very interesting. So yeah, that's it for tonight when it comes to the NFL talk. Another day of the fuckery, day 2, not as rampant and crazy as day 1, but that's kind of expected. We'll get some news tomorrow. Trey Hendrickson probably is going to sign. Kyler Murray is going to sign. I'm hoping that Trey Hendrickson signs with like the Buffalo Bills, but it sounds like with the way things have gone down today, he's probably going to sign with the Baltimore Ravens, which would be just a horrible look. And we'll see what happens with Maxx Crosby. I think that has to get rectified pretty soon here. We'll see what happens also with Trent Williams, but still some free agents available. Jawan Jennings, other big-time names, but it may be a slow process where once you get past day 2, things kind of trickle out through the rest of the season. Just real quick here, though, kind of shocked watching this score. In the World Baseball Classic, Italy is leading Team USA 8-4 right now. They are in the top of the 8th with 2 outs, but at one point, Team Italy was up 8-0. Wow.
Yeah, I don't really have words for that. USA, it's baseball, so you're going to lose probably against teams that you shouldn't, but this USA team should not be down 8-4 against Italy. I have not been watching this since we've been on air, but
yeah,
I also just assumed, and I've been watching the WBC, but I was just like, they'll roll right over Italy. Not so fast, my friends.
Not so fast.
Yeah, as Lee Corso would say, USA's in the hole, but they'll still be fine going forward. Another thing that popped up right when we got on, Bam Adebayo now the second highest single game score of all time. Never thought I'd say that in my life. 83 points, which is insane. And so Kobe down to number 3, Wilt still number 1, and Bam Adebayo now number 2 all time, which is pretty wild.
No, that's incredible. The Miami Heat win tonight 150-129 over the Washington Wizards. Bam Adebayo finishes with 83 points. He goes, God, this is insane, 20 of 43. Yeah. 7 of 22 from 3, 9 rebounds, but yeah, unbelievable performance by him tonight. And just goes to show people could have historical performances against the Washington Wizards. I believe Jonathan Kuminga had 2 great performances against him, and people went crazy that the Warriors made a huge mistake. Alon, Thanks for joining me tonight. We got some technical difficulties, but kind of a crazy night given the Maxx Crosby news. I'm disappointed on multiple levels for Raider fans, for Ravens fans, for Maxx, for the Raiders to build up their new team. So it's, again, nothing to do with me being a former fan. I'm just disappointed that we had a great trade on the table and now it's taken away from us.
No, I agree. It was a great trade for both parties, and now just his value is shot in terms of trade compensation, and it's going to be interesting to see what the Ravens do in the next 24 to 48 hours. But yeah, disappointing for the league overall. One thing I will say to everybody who's been watching or listening, hey, I said Mike Evans should go be a Niner. He's a Niner now. I'm going to say Kayvon Chason. They should go get him, so that might happen too. If you guys have any suggestions, you can just reach out to me on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, and I'll start speaking those things into existence for you, Niner fans.
There you go. I wish I could have. I'm telling you guys, I'm looking at a blank white screen right now, so I apologize. I can't thank the chat tonight, but thanks to everybody that was on with us, and I think we'll be back tomorrow to react to what happens, the fallout of Maxx Crosby, where Trey Hendrickson goes, what's going on with Kyler Murray. So we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks to everybody that watched tonight. And Alon, if you could do me a favor and stop the stream and say what you always say going forward.
I can stop the stream. And Derek, you might think that you're frozen right now on the stream, but that's just your opinion, man.
I think that's actually fact.
Could be fact and opinion.
Are we off, Alon?
Nope. I don't have permissions to end the stream.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. I don't know how I could do this. Hang on. I may have to
reconnect. So bonus show here, guys. While Derek's reconnecting to end the show, just start putting in the chat which Niner players you want, and I will just start doing my little rituals to get you guys the team that you need. Otis, yeah, a lot of Ernie's here as well. I'll just start going through the chat. We had Chewy in here, skills report. We had a lot of people. Pat H had some real zingers today. That was good. And yeah, no, it was fun. It was a fun show. I was glad. Aram, got to thank Aram. Haven't seen Aram in a while, but I always miss those Schroeder's days. Those were really fun. And I think that was everybody who at least contributed with the comments today. But yes, just start flooding that chat with Niner players. So, you know, while we're still here, and we'll see how long we're still here, I'll do a little impromptu. We'll just look down the list of available players that the Niners should get. Kyler Murray, you don't want him. Trey Hendrickson, way too expensive. Rasheed Walker, be kind of interesting if you can't get things done with Trent. That would be good to see. But I really like Chason. I think that would be good. And even though he's a much older man now, he'd be kind of an elder statesman on the defensive line. I think it'd be really interesting to get a guy like Big Cam Jordan, because he had 10.5 sacks last year, and he's 30. He was 36. He's 37 now, but he can still play. So those are kind of the guys that I'm looking at. You know, and obviously that could all change. Maybe something has happened on air, but no, Cameron Jordan still a free agent. Kayvon Chason still a free agent, and it looks like Rasheed is still a free agent as well. But that's kind of the trip around the potential free agents right now for the Niners. And oh yeah, okay. So Derek is gone. Now it's just me. I'll take you on a tour here real quick of the background that I'm putting together for this show. We have The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. You can see those are real autographs, folks. My parents were able to get that for me when I was just a wee child at a Ducks Unlimited auction. So that was really cool. Cam Jordan with a Bay Area return. That would be sick. Aram, I agree. That would be very sick. And it looks like Derek is back after I've been able to show you the two wrestlers that I have autographs of and talk about who I think the Niners should get in free agency.
Well, I appreciate you tap dancing, Alon, and apologies for my connection tonight. Alon had his connection fixed, and I got to work on mine. So apologies for tonight, but thanks to everybody in the chat tonight. And now I can thank you the proper way. Thanks to Otis Bird. Thanks to Aram. Thanks to Ernie One. Thanks to the Skills Report. Thanks to Pat H. Crap Section. Thanks to Alon commenting in the comment section. Thanks to Chewy's Raiders coverage. And I believe that is it. All right, everybody. We will see you tomorrow. We'll react to all the news as the fuckery continues. And boy, oh boy, is it a fuckery, all right. Alon, once again, say what you always say.
You might call it tap dancing, but I just call it speaking the gospel, Derek. But that's just your opinion, man.
I like the way you're coming up with these now.